أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته أعظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام. May Allah increase our reward on account of our grief for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Some of the rituals that we perform are from the sha'a'ir of Allah. They are from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are rituals that remind us of God. The Quran tells us that Safa and Marwa and Tawaf are from the sha'a'ir of Allah. I also would like to remind you that the aza of Imam al-Hussein and the rituals that we perform in commemorating the tragedy of Karbala, these are also from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And God says, whoever honors the signs of God, فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ, it will create piety and taqwa in his heart. We are entering the sacred and holy month of Muharram and then the month of Safar. This is the month in which we remember Imam al-Hussein and the heroic stand that he made in the land of Karbala. In the land of Karbala, he stood for courage, for justice, for liberty, for submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for human honor and dignity, and he rose up against oppression. And it is this month of Muharram that is an opportunity for us to revive these values in our hearts, in our lives, and in our communities. And to revive these values, we will have to make a sacrifice. Our lives will have to change in the holy month of Muharram. This is what we see in the lives of the Ahlul Bayt. The seventh Imam, when talking about his father, or the eighth Imam, when talking about his father, used to say that when the month of Muharram used to enter, my father, la yura dahikan, you would not see him laughing or smiling. A sense of grief would overwhelm him, would overcome him. And I hope that we can create that atmosphere, not only in our community, but also in our houses and in our families as well. And the Imam says in the hadith, when the 10th day of Muharram would arrive, you would see my father was engaged in mourning and grieving and crying for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So this means that we will have to make some sacrifices. I know that we will be at work and we have to go to work the next day. Our children are at school and we'll be asked to remain at the mosque a little longer. And I hope that we can make that sacrifice, because it is only through sacrifice that we build love. This is how our parents conveyed the love of Imam al-Hussein and the importance of aza to us, and I hope that we will be able to do the same for the next generation as well. This month of Muharram, I'd like us to focus on three forms of commemorating the aza of Imam al-Hussein. The first one is emotional engagement. Let us not forget that the month of Muharram is a month of grief and mourning. It's a month of aza. This is how the Ahlul Bayt wanted the month of Muharram to be commemorated. Let us tell the stories of Karbala. Let us listen to the tragedy of Karbala and allow the tears to flow from our eyes. In fact, in one of the ahadith we're told, and in some of the ziyarat, one of the names of Imam al-Hussein is that he is qatilul abarat. He is the one who was martyred so that tears would flow, so that emotions would be evoked, so that hearts would come back to life, and so that passion would stir in the heart of a believer for the values of Imam al-Hussein. Sometimes we may find that tears do not flow easily upon our eyes, and we should ask ourselves why that is happening. We should find out from ourselves, why is it that I find it difficult to cry for my Imam? Is it a cultural obstacle? Have I been brought up to think that crying and grown men do not cry, or that grown people do not cry? If that's the case, let us remember those warriors in the battlefield who gave their lives protecting Islam and protecting the Muslim community, and they were amongst the foremost of those who used to cry for Imam al-Hussein. Is it because I don't have that love that I need to have for the Ahlul Bayt? If that's the case, let me make a resolution this Muharram to inspire that love into my heart. I have requested the community that this year the Masa'ib should also be recited in the English language, so that those who understand the English language would also be able to have an emotional engagement with Imam al-Hussein. Secondly, I also hope that we will have an active participation in the Aza of Imam al-Hussein. This Aza is very sacred. It is so sacred that sometimes we see that some of our Maraji of Taqleed, when they passed away, like Ayatollah Mar'ashi Najafi, he wrote in his will that I would like to be buried with that handkerchief that I used to use to cry for Imam al-Hussein in the month of Muharram. And I would like to be buried with those black clothes that I used to wear when I would go for the majlises of mourning for Imam al-Hussein. But what I would like to see is active participation, meaning that we get involved in reciting marthiyah, in composing poetry, in reciting nawha, and doing the matam of Imam al-Hussein. We are told in the hadith that the one who recites poetry for the Ahlul Bayt has a very high station with the Ahlul Bayt. One of the reciters of poetry was Di'bal. And Di'bal says, one day I entered in the presence of the 8th Imam. The moment he saw me, he welcomed me to come and sit next to him. And he said, Marhaban binasirina biyadihi wa lisanih. Welcome to the one who aids us with his hands and also aids us with his speech as well. I hope one day to see in our community, members of our community, composing original poetry, original marthiyah and nawha for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. I have requested the community that they allow for at least one English nawha recitation every night in the month of Muharram. I encourage you to stay back, to be a part of that program, to respect the rest of the program, and to at least be a part of one or two nawhas when they are recited, and to revive that ritual within our community. I also want to point out that there are other rituals which members of the community are going to be observing. These are cultural rituals which have been permitted by the Sharia. They have been permitted by Islam, and there is thawab in engaging in these rituals as well. These rituals, some of them may not be meaningful for you, but they are meaningful for some people and for some communities. I hope, inshallah, we will respect them and respect that ritual that is meaningful to them. And finally, I invite you to learn about the values of Imam al-Hussein and to embody those values in our lives and to speak about them proudly. Imam al-Hussein was not just a humanitarian. Imam al-Hussein stood for liberty and advocated for it. Imam al-Hussein believed in justice and advocated for it. In fact, he laid down his life for the sake of justice and for the sake of Islam. It is our responsibility today to look within our own society, to look within our own world and ask ourselves, as we see oppression, as we see injustice, as we see Islamophobia, what is our role going to be, the role of a Husseini? And finally, I also ask you to be proud of spreading the message of Imam al-Hussein, and in particular this year to support the Walk with Hussein campaign, or what has been known as the Muharram Julus program. The organizers have worked really hard to make it innovative and to make it effective and to make it impactful. And I hope that by participating, you will be encouraging them and you will be a part in spreading the message of Imam al-Hussein. May the Almighty accept all the good deeds that you perform and your acts of azah for Imam al-Hussein. And I request you to pray for this humble servant, and I too will try to remember you in my du'as in the holy month of Muharram. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.